Before we start using the product, it's helpful to understand what kinds of work is Parabola best suited to support so that you can start mapping these lessons to the processes you run every day. To make the mental model even clearer, we'll also talk about how Parabola complements and extends core systems in your tech stack, such as your ERP and databases. The goal coming out of this lesson is for you to feel like you can confidently recognize strong Parabola use cases in your own work. And to get started, we'll break down the core characteristics of great Parabola use cases. The best Parabola use cases usually share very similar DNA. They require pulling data from more than one system and require you to break into spreadsheets to clean, combine, and reconcile that data. You usually need to follow some kind of process document or an SOP, and usually we're working on processes that repeat, whether that is once per week or maybe every time you receive an email. And finally, these processes usually impact something that truly matters, whether that is time, accuracy, cost, revenue, or just giving you better visibility into your data. Now, a process doesn't need to check all 5 of these boxes to make for a great Parabola use case, but the more boxes a process checks, the better the use case is for Parabola. Since Parabola can really automate anything you're currently doing in spreadsheets, there's really no limit to the number of use cases you can automate in Parabola, but from working with hundreds of other finance and accounting teams, we generally see use cases fall into one of 4 broad categories: month-end close and journal entry prep, transaction classification and structuring, reconciliation, monitoring and alerting, and cost performance and analysis. Let's break down the characteristics of each and share some specific examples. Month-end close and journal entry prep work represents one of the lowest hanging opportunities for automation because this work is so manual, repetitive, and consistent month to month. It also has the opportunities and will be one of the most valuable categories for automation since it can tangibly decrease days to close and improve accuracy. Some common examples here include operational accruals, where if we think about a fulfillment example, maybe we are comparing actual fulfillment activity in a month to what we were invoiced for to figure out what we need to book in expense accruals, as well as deferred revenue recognition processes extended across all of your different sales channels. Transaction classification and structuring is all about taking input data and making it structured and reliable for downstream systems and processes. This is especially useful when we're working with messier data sources like emails and PDFs, and by blending AI into this process, we're often able to achieve a level of accuracy and granularity that wasn't previously possible. Think about document digitization and specific classification workflows here, where maybe we are receiving an invoice PDF via email, we're extracting line items with AI, and then using AI plus business logic to ultimately map specific line items into the right GL account. Reconciliation, monitoring, and alerting workflows are all about comparing 2 or more datasets and notifying you in real time via Slack, email, or Teams as soon as human action is required. This shifts audit-style use cases from happening maybe once a month or every time you get around to it to something that's always on in the background, only alerting you when action's actually required. Some common examples here include invoice audits across 3PLs and different carriers, as well as bank and cash reconciliations. Finally, we have cost performance and analysis, which you can think of as your recurring reporting use cases. Some of your systems might have reporting natively, but oftentimes all the data you need is spread across a couple different systems. It might not have the exact nuanced logic you need, and so you end up breaking into spreadsheets. This includes processes such as variance analysis, where we are comparing budgets versus actuals, as well as carrier and vendor scorecards. Those are the main categories of use cases that we see for finance and accounting teams, and while it's helpful to understand the specific categories, it's also useful to understand Parabola in the broader context of your tech stack and the tools that you rely on every day, like your ERP, sales channels, and databases. While Parabola flows often turn into your operational source of truth for how a process actually works, your source of truth remains your ERP, and systems like your WMS and sales channels continue to be integrated based on connections that your tech team builds, owns, and maintains. None of that changes with Parabola, but what does change is everything that happens between systems and outside of systems. Instead of continuing to export CSVs and work manually, now you have Parabola flows set up that are live integrated with your systems and automate things like reconciliations, allow you to extend reporting functionality with custom dashboards and visualizations, and also notify you when discrepancies exist across these systems. Additionally, if we think about messier data sources, such as your email, which is traditionally really hard to perfectly integrate with your ERP, especially if you're getting PDFs with a bunch of line items, now, instead of tech teams needing to figure out this work, ops can deploy workflows to extract key information with AI, structure it for your ERP and downstream systems, and automate those end to end processes. To make it even simpler, you can think about Parabola as the layer that prepares data for downstream systems and processes. It combines data across sources. It applies logic that maybe doesn't come out of the box in some of your existing tools. And it monitors all the systems that you don't have time to check all day, every day. Now that you understand the core characteristics of a good use case and you've seen some examples, let's take a moment to reflect on your own world. Think about the processes that you run where you're constantly exporting CSV files, performing VLOOKUPs, cleaning data, looking for discrepancies, and building reports. The goal isn't to build your whole list of use cases right now, but rather to think about those processes that feel really in line with the best probable use cases, which is ultimately going to make this whole course feel that much more relevant. That's all for this lesson, so we'll end with a quick recap. Now you know that the best use cases for Parabola usually tackle repetitive spreadsheet-heavy work that often involve two or more data sources. This work can range from data prep work to audit to analysis, and ultimately, it's not replacing your systems, but rather complementing and extending your systems so that you have to do less manual, repetitive work. With this foundation in place, we are ready to jump into the product. And in the next lesson, we'll walk through the flow building framework and introduce the building challenge that we'll work on for the duration of this course.